Good Shabbos. I'm Rav Ezra, Rabbi of Pace in the Loop. I'm coming to you from our home in the West Loop in Chicago. It's been another tough week of isolation and physical distancing, and it's very easy to lose yourself in the timelessness of it all, in the monotony of everyday life. Waking up in the same place, not going anywhere, going to sleep in the same place, over and over and over again. And the rabbis ask in Masechet Shabbat, in the Gemara, if you found yourself lost in the desert and you didn't know what day it was, how would you know when is Shabbat? And they go back and forth. One rabbi says, the day you realize you don't know what day it is, that's Shabbat, and then you count 6 days and have another Shabbat. And one rabbi says, no, the day you realize you don't know what day it is, you start counting 1 through 6 and then have Shabbat. They go back and forth and ultimately settle on the day you realize that you don't know what day it is, you start counting 1 through 6 and then have Shabbat. Well, what if you made a mistake? What if you really didn't know what Shabbat is? There actually is a day that is Shabbat. And the rabbis say they ultimately distill Shabbat into what matters, which is that when we make Kiddush and when we make Havdalah before and after Shabbat, the way we sanctify the day and separate it from other days, that's what ultimately makes Shabbat. That helps us find ourselves when we've been lost in time. Now, I've recently been thinking about this as I rewatched one of my favorite childhood movies, The Sandlot, and there's a great line in there that says, heroes are remembered, but legends never die. That there is this idea that there are legends, there are things that are so great that they exist outside of one particular space and one particular time. And this is an opportunity for us to think about this as we approach our great Shabbat, Shabbat HaGadol, right before Passover. Why is this Shabbat before Passover called the Great Shabbat? The Sfas Emes explains that Shabbat and Pesach are ultimately linked at their core. They are both rooted in that which is supernatural, that which is above nature, and that which is outside of time. There is a supernatural miracle, the splitting of the sea, that God reaching God's hand down into our world and bringing us out with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. That's supernatural. That exists not in the world of nature as we know it. But it also exists outside of time. The story of our Exodus, the story of the liberation of our people, the challenge of us that we need to heed to liberate all peoples, that doesn't exist just in Egypt. That didn't exist just thousands of years ago. That existed every single year. And it does right now. And the same is true on Shabbat. Shabbat is an opportunity to experience that which is not natural, a complete stop in time, a 25-hour pause on the week, a taste of paradise in the world to come. In that way, they are both linked. They both have elements that are outside of time. So while, yes, we can get lost in timelessness, we can also find ourselves and find the beauty in timelessness. So it's a challenge to us as this Shabbat comes and Pesach comes in unideal times without necessarily the people we love all around us. How do we bring those elements of love and redemption and liberation out of one particular time into our time? And when we get out of here, when we leave our constricted places, when we leave our restricted places, how do we ensure that those loves and that those redemptions and that those liberations exist not just for us, but for all people in all times? And if we can accomplish that, we will experience the ultimate redemption. Shabbat Shalom.